Does your homeowner's insurance cover damage from earthquakes? Well, in today's video, we're going to tackle that topic. Let's get after it. Hey folks, Jack Wingate here, and on this channel, we help individuals, families, and businesses with tips, tricks, strategies to help you save money on insurance, help you understand insurance a little bit better, and let you know what's going on in the insurance industry. And on today's video, we're going to discuss all things earthquake related when it comes to your homeowner's insurance. All right, first things first, let's answer the question right off the bat. Does homeowner's insurance cover earthquakes? Well, in North Carolina and most other states, there's actually an exclusion on the homeowner's insurance form that says that damages as a result of an earthquake are excluded. So a big X, excluded from coverage. So your homeowner's policy, if you're in North Carolina or any other state for that matter, is not going to provide you coverage if the damage results from an earthquake. Well, now that we know that earthquake is not covered, more specifically, it's excluded from coverage on the homeowner's insurance form, now we need to talk about how you can get coverage. Well, in some states, you can actually buy a standalone policy that is just for earthquake. It's actually called earthquake insurance. It's a separate policy. But in North Carolina, you can actually endorse your homeowners, your condo, HO6 policy, your renter's insurance, HO4 policy, to include coverage for earthquake. So all you have to do is call your local insurance provider and say, hey, I would like to add earthquake insurance to my homeowner's form. And that's all you have to do. Okay, so you have called your insurance provider. You've said, hey, I would really like to add earthquake insurance to my policy. The question now becomes, how much does it cost? Well, the factors vary from carrier to carrier and also by construction of your home. So let's give you an example. If you have, and this is in the year 2023, let's say you have a home policy that your dwelling coverage is around $400,000. Let's also assume that the type of house you have is frame, that means siding, let's say. And assume that you have a deductible of 5%. So what does that mean? The deductible, and we did a whole video on deductibles, but assume that you have a 5% deductible. That means that you are going to be responsible for the first 5% of whatever your dwelling is covered for. So if it's a $400,000 dwelling, you take 5% of $400,000, and that is going to be your deductible, meaning what you have to pay before the insurance company steps in. So assuming all those things, the endorsement to add earthquake coverage to your policy is going to be roughly $100. Now, if you have a brick home, so brick veneer, so you have brick and then, wood studs behind it, your premium is actually going to be a little bit higher. Now, with normal homeowners, if you have a brick house, the premium is typically lower, but because if an earthquake comes and happens, if your brick becomes cracked, it's going to be more expensive to cover. So the price to cover earthquake for a brick home is going to be a little bit higher than a frame home. But all things being equal, assume about $100 for an endorsement to add earthquake. So if you have less than a $400,000 house, it's going to be less some, but $100 is basically what we're looking for with most houses. All right, so thus far, we've gone over the fact that earthquake is not covered on a standard homeowner's policy. We've talked about how you get coverage, how you buy that coverage back on your homeowner's policy. And we've even talked about the cost of what that endorsement would be. But then you might be thinking to yourself, do I even really need to have coverage for earthquake? Well, I don't live in California, and that's really where all the earthquakes happen, right? Because that's what we hear all the time. You have big earthquakes in California. Well, believe it or not, in North Carolina, we actually have a really, really large and somewhat active fault line that runs right through North Carolina. And I can tell you in the last 20 or so years that we've actually had probably at least 10 different seismic events that have spurred some requests when it comes to earthquake coverage. Back in the day, when ALLCHOICE was first started, we had a few tremors that hit through the Greensboro area, and they were pretty sizable. And at that time, the only way to get information out was to actually snail mail information to our clients. So over the years, we've probably had 5 to 10 people actually endorse their policies to include earthquake. But now it seems that there are more seismic events all throughout North Carolina. We've had a rash in Asheville. We've had some through the middle of the state, like we've said. So thinking about whether or not you should have earthquake actually becomes a little bit bigger discussion now. Now we know that insurance is about managing risk. So how likely are you to have damage as a result of an earthquake event? Maybe that's still small, but it is a risk that you face. So whether or not you need earthquake insurance obviously is a personal decision, but please know that earthquakes just don't happen in California, they happen here too. All right, so at this point in time, you probably should have way more than enough information on earthquakes. You understand that the homeowner's policy does not just cover earthquake damage, that if you want to have coverage for earthquake, you're going to need to endorse your policy. We know it's going to run approximately $100 a year. And then we also know that earthquakes aren't just limited to those folks out west. It is actually a real thing and a real concern here in North Carolina. So with all that being said, I hope you've gotten some value from this. And if you have more questions about coverages, whether or not things are covered or not, keep watching our YouTube channel or just reach out to us at ALLCHOICE Insurance and we'll be happy to go over those things for you. And until next time, we'll see you.